GM servers. Welcome back to another tutorial. And in this tutorial, we're going to deep dive into how you can build your own customized agent with the specialized functionality, and then add it to your workspace, give it a specific task, connect it to or make it work with other agents part of your workspace, and carry out and execute those specific tasks you're trying to run with your specialized agent. Without further ado, let's dive right in. Some of the prerequisites for being able to build and also follow the tutorial and to be able to build and test your own customized agent would be signing up, of course, assuming that you've already signed up on our platform. The other prerequisite would be having Node.js on your system. If not, go to the official nodejs.org website. I'm going to share these links in the documentation, and then install it for your operating system. We'll also need ngrok just for local testing. It's not needed for prod, but for being able to test from your local machine, ngrok is needed. Go ahead to their official docs and download it for your system. All right, assuming that we have all these, let's get started. I am going to share the template for being able to build your own agent. It's a very basic example template of building a Hyperliquid agent. The trade example or the capability probably might be a little bit complex, which we can dive into briefly, but there's a test capability, part of the example repo I'm going to share. That is a very, very good starting point for us to understand how the whole framework works and how the SDK works. So to get started, let's look at the environment variables and understand what are the dependencies. The only real dependency for building your custom agent is, from our side, would be the OpenServ API key. Now, what is the OpenServ API key? The OpenServ API key is also called the secret key of your agent. So let's see how we can get an API key. Now, let's go back to the dashboard. And on the dashboard, we'll have to go to the agent section, and then we go to the add agent section. Once we go to the add agent section, this is where you make a new customized agent. But why is it called add agent? The reason it's called add agent is because you're going to build most of it on through code, but you're just going to make it accessible, and to be able to add it to a workspace and make it accessible to the platform, you'll have to add it and register it on our platform. And how do you do that? So under add agent, give it a name, test agent, and then give it an endpoint. Now, what is an agent endpoint? An agent endpoint is essentially the endpoint through which the platform can talk to your agent. That's where ngrok comes in for local testing. When we're testing it locally, to be able to expose the agent server, which is a typical Node.js HTTP server running locally, you will have to use ngrok, expose the local machine server to the internet, or in this case, a platform, so that, and then drop that endpoint here so that the platform is aware this is where the agent is, this is where I can talk to it. So in this case, let's just drop in a dummy endpoint, as it can be edited later once we get it up and running on the ngrok instance. Further, there's a capabilities description section. We will, of course, be adding a lot of different capabilities through code. So here you can just give a brief description of what the agent does so that other agents are aware that, okay, this is the agent that does this specific task. And further, there's scopes. You can add, like any other agent, you can add Twitter scope or Telegram scope, so that this agent has access to Telegram API or Twitter API or YouTube API, etc. Let's just click on save. Once you click on save, you can go to manage this agent, and it automatically shows the agent that we just made. Once you create a new agent, it gets listed. There's add agent, and then there's your agent section. Once we make an agent, it gets listed over here. In this case, we made the test agent. Let's look at the different sections out here. And it says it's an external agent. What is an external agent? That means it's hosted on your end. It's self-hosted by you, the developer, and the workspace or the platform is just interacting with your agent through the capabilities you have described. So it is completely under your control, but the workspace that you added to can talk to it. Further, it says in development. That's because it's a private agent that's not accessible by the public. So that's fine. That's totally fine. You can still use it privately. Further, we've got actions where we can either delete it or look at the details. Now, looking at the details, there are some key sections here. The most important one being the secret key section. Here, once you make a new agent, you have to click on create secret key. What is the secret key? This is the API key we've been talking about. The OpenServ API key is the same as the agent API key, because the way OpenServ works, every agent, every unique agent has its own secret key, which is the OpenServ API key. Now, to be able to add it to a workspace or make it work and host it on your end and expose it to the platform or the workspace you're working with, you will have to create a secret key so that the platform identifies that it is this specific agent that the workspace is talking to or that has been added to the workspace. So it's just an identifier for the platform and for the agent. So let's create the secret key for the agent. Once it's created, make sure you copy it, keep it secure. For the sake of the demo, I'm anyways going to delete this test agent. I'm just showing it, but make sure that you securely store this. Don't give it to anybody. And copy that. And further, you won't be able to access it again. You can, of course, delete it and regenerate a new one. Copy that and drop it in here. Once you drop it in there into the actual env, this is just an env example file for the sake of the demo, but once you drop it onto your .env file, we are done with the basic setup for being able to interact with your agent from the platform and back and forth. In my case, for the example repo I've shared that has the exact code that I'm showing, this is the actual agent that I've linked with the secret key, which is the HL agent, which is the Hyperliquid agent, just for the demo purpose. And I have already dropped this in onto my actual env file. And also, the other section that's important here, other than the agent name and capability description, is the endpoint URL. In my case, this is a dummy one which I was testing with locally. Let's see how we can get this. So, if you have cloned this repository and run npm i, once you have done npm i, it installs all the packages, and then an npm start. So npm start starts the agent, and then the capabilities are listed out here. In this case, there's a test capability for the demo, the trade capability, which carries out trades on Hyperliquid, which is more of an advanced use case, which we'll go through later. So once it shows that it's listening. So another key concept to keep in mind is the port parameter. In my case, I'm using the 7390 port. So if you don't mention this port explicitly in your env, it's going to automatically pick up the 7378 port. This is also in the documentation, but this is what it's going to pick up. But if you define a specific port, make sure you're keeping an eye on it, because that is the specific port. You'll have to use ngrok. Assuming you have installed ngrok and set up, you can use the ngrok http 7390, which is the port I've just mentioned, and start and expose the server that has started. Oops, looks like there is one more instance or session running. So this is also one more thing to keep in mind. If you get this error, that means if you already have ngrok, you're probably running it elsewhere, and you'll have to kill that session first by going to the dashboard and then use it again. So let me just quickly kill the session. All right, should be good to go now. Oh no, okay. Let's see. Let's try this. Okay. This should hopefully, okay. So use the kill all ngrok button, sorry, command, and you should be good to go. All right. So once that's done, once you start and expose the server using ngrok, this is the key forwarding URL that exposes your server, your agent server, to the internet and where the platform can access it. Take that and drop it and update. Once it's updated, we're all set. This is the basic setup for being able to connect your agent to the platform. And if you deploy it on a backend service like AWS or Google Cloud or any other cloud provider like Railway, make sure you expose that specific port that you've defined, and copy the public domain and update the details over here with the updated prod URL. All right, moving forward, once this is set up, that means the agent server is running, it's exposed to the platform, and the platform can talk to it. So HL agent, that's what it is in our case, can be added to the workspace. In my case, I've already added it, the HL agent. Now let's move to the run mode, and let's just look at the task description. It says test capability for the title, and the description is very simple: call the test capability. Now, a key concept to keep in mind is that based on the number of different capabilities you've defined, in this case, we've in this template, I've modularized it in a way that you can add these capabilities all together, and the capabilities are within the capability folder, and there's an index.js that just takes all these capabilities from this parent folder and then exports it so that it can be imported on the main agent server and registered. The key command over here is the agent.add capability. It takes the description of the capability based on the definition, which is given in the docs. If we go to the code example and the TypeScript SDK, under table of contents, let's look at capabilities. All right, so the key concept to keep in mind is that you're going to initialize a new agent and then add a capability which follows the schema where you give the name, the description. The description is pretty important so that this is the key piece of text that other agents with part of their workspace are going to use to understand what your agent is capable of, and the schema in terms of what are the parameters that are going to be sent to the agent and that the agent is expecting. And the exact schema of arguments is sent over here. These arguments, this args object is going to be able to access these parameters that have been mentioned in the schema. And further, there's also an action object which is default, which can do certain things. Now you take the args and then do whatever you want to based on whatever schema you've defined, and then carry out within this run function. You can integrate any external API, whether it's a Web3 SDK or a Web2 SDK. All kinds of on-chain SDKs can be used, and you can do all kinds of things. This is the capability which is basically like a tool with infinite possibilities. So here you can define all kinds of capabilities that do specific things, call different APIs, and then send the response based on the definition of the capability. And there's also a way in which you can add multiple capabilities. And those are the key concepts to keep in mind. Further, the actions, we'll look at more of the examples of how action can be used. And further, there are a few things, part of the SDK, which is upload file, which is pretty useful. Whatever file you uploaded to the workspace will get automatically indexed, and it'll be part of the rack context for the agent. And you can also get those files or download certain files that have been generated and send message. And locally testing you can also add for OpenAI. If you want to just test and do some LLM calls locally, you can just drop in your OpenAI key and make use of it. So this is a summary of how the TypeScript SDK works, and that's how we have used it here. We have abstracted, have modularized a few things, but under the hood, that's how it works. So let's just look at the test capability in this case. The test capability has a very simple description. Test capability that just logs all received parameters, and it just has a basic message kind of parameter. We just console log to show that the test capability was successfully called just with natural language. And further, we just console log the action and also the workspace ID and also the message that was sent. So let's go ahead and call this capability. So the way you call this capability is, again, just through natural language. You just have to be like, call the test capability. The agent is gonna, the workspace shadow agents, and the agent is gonna be fully aware that this capability has been registered, and we're just gonna call that capability. Input is none in this case, and the response is gonna be whatever is responded by the agent. Let's go ahead and trigger it. All right, let's look at the logs. It's going to take a while. All right, so looking at the logs, test capability was successfully called for that specific task, and then here we have the message. Received out is just testing capability for that. So we can go back here and we can see the console logs. That means we could successfully create a specialized agent, create a capability, and test it out and call that capability just with natural language. Hence, this is the basic fundamental way in which you can make a specialized agent. And using these concepts that we just learned, you can pretty much add all kinds of capabilities, register it, integrate different external APIs, create some secret sauce strategies, or create some secret sauce capabilities that you can monetize with X4 to register the agent with 804, and the possibilities are endless. I'll be sharing all the resources in the documentation. Really excited to come up with more examples and share more resources and walk through over a bunch of different example agents, specialized agents that we have built, starting with the Hyperliquid agent. We're gonna go through the example of how you can build the trait functionality and deal with secrets, the secret management part, and further look at more examples from different on-chain use cases, either data-specific use cases like fetching chart data for trading, or polymarket agent example. So stay tuned. Thank you very much.